Hey everyone, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for this episode of the FlipNerd.com Expert Interview Show, where I talk with experts from across the real estate investing industry. This is a very special episode for me. This is episode number 300, and I'll say it's the most exciting show I've ever recorded. For today, I'm interviewing my wife, Lindsay Hambright. For those of you that regularly watch or listen to the show, again, this is episode 300. You may not know that there is she likes to call it a woman behind the curtain, but in fact, there is no way that FlipNerd would exist at all. There's no way I would have done all these interviews. There's no way we would have bought hundreds of houses, and no way that I'd be with you here today in any capacity without my wife, Lindsay. She really is the glue that keeps everything together and plays a huge role in everything we do. So today we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about how to work with your spouse or your partner. Partnerships are a big part of real estate investing. But if you haven't tried it, it's not as easy as you might think. And we won't even portray to have all the answers here because we're still trying to figure it out after all these years. But real estate investing really is a perfect business to split up responsibilities on. But partnerships aren't easy. So we're going to talk about what we've learned after doing this for, I guess, 8 years now. And then part two, we're going to talk about a little bit about our story, why we created FlipNerd.com. A lot of people are curious as to what we're doing or why are we doing this, or you may not even know all the things that we're doing if you just watch or listen to the show, because we don't really talk a whole lot about the FlipNerd.com platform. And I don't think we've ever talked about why we do what we do. So there's really probably very few people that know what we're doing behind the scenes and why we're working so hard to make a difference or use this as our vehicle to make a difference. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get this party started. Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to my better half, Lindsay Hambright. Lindsay, how are you?
Hello. That was a very nice introduction.
Yeah, I don't normally script them, but I had to script this one. Had to make it perfect. For those that don't know, Lindsay is about maybe 20 yards from me on the other side of the office here. So, but we could be thousands of miles apart. But so Lindsay, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
My role here at FlipNerd is to try to make sure that everything kind of gets done. So I'm what you would call the executioner of the company. And so I just kind of keep Mike and the entire team on task. I'm really more of a project manager. I also handle all the accounting and bookkeeping for our businesses. And I'm kind of the CFO. So, but yeah, that's essentially been your right-hand person.
Absolutely. So, and when you own your own business, for those of you that are listening, you can say I'm kind of this and I'm kind of that, because you do kind of do everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you own a small business and it's kind of a husband and wife team, people have to kind of fill in where the gaps where it's missing. And so I'm the type of person that I really like to enjoy learning new things and learning new skill sets. So when it's something that you're not interested in, I kind of dig in and fill in that role. So.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the real estate investing side of our business. So for those that don't know, we wear a few hats. So we're franchisees with Homevestors that we buy ugly houses, folks. And that's how we get started. Literally, we had never purchased a house in our life before that, other than, I guess, our first home that we lived in that we bought a little bit after we got married. But we joined Homevestors and we've probably gone on to buy a little bit over 300 houses. And for several years, that's primarily all we did, was just grind it out, buying and selling houses. And I think a lot of our listeners here are real estate investors more so than website operators. So let's kind of talk about that part first.
So what I'd like to add is that we kind of jumped into the Homevestor system. And for us, for our situation, it was the perfect opportunity for us because we had both corporate backgrounds. We hadn't really had very much real estate experience, if at all. And so for us, it was just a great way to provide a system and a brand and a network of other professionals that we could tap into. Because that's really half the battle, is just the first year when you're getting started is figuring out your processes, not just for you, but for also your team. And that's the hardest part. But once you have a system in place and a process in place, then things start to roll and it becomes more of a routine.
Yeah, and even when you have those processes in place and systems and all the things that we bought into a franchise for, if you don't buy into a franchise, you still have to have all these things. It's just a matter of whether
you have to figure them out.
whether you have to figure it out on your own or whether
Yeah.
somebody kind of helps you along the way. But once you have all those things, I mean, what we've found, which this is going to sound really obvious, but this is through years of trials and tribulations, is that there are certain skill sets that I have that Lindsay doesn't have, and vice versa. And I think that's where a lot of partnerships kind of fail, is people are expected to do certain tasks, whether they're good at it or not. And there's things that we have to do whether we're good at it or not as a small business owner. But
Okay.
I think that's one of the benefits of a partnership, is if you have somebody that's not exactly like you, there's usually skill sets that complement each other. And is that, how would you explain that better?
Yeah,
Lindsay?
I mean, basically, you and I met in graduate school, and we were apparently in the same class, but I never really knew it until half of the semester because you were in the back row, but I was always in the front row.
Yeah,
Um,
that explanation right there defines really everything that's happened since then. I'm a back row kind of guy. Like,
Yeah.
maybe they won't see me messing around back here, but
Right. But I do remember you cracking jokes and stuff in the back.
yeah,
But basically, you need that kind of those two skill sets are very important. Someone that is more outgoing, more extroverted, that is kind of the outward facing person of your business. You need that person. And then you need also the person that's much more, probably more introverted, more numbers oriented, very detail oriented, that will make sure that all of your ducks are in a row, so that you're in line with regulatory and any sort of other kind of tax reporting, all sorts of stuff, details that require details.
cash management, obviously stuff
Cash
that's
management.
critical. That yeah, and that's why I say, like, truly, Lindsay and I have joked about this before. If I didn't have her in the business, we probably would have run out of cash or screwed something up on the financial side, and some details would have slipped through the cracks that would have caused us to fail ultimately. And if she was doing this without me, she's very risk averse and maybe never would have pulled the trigger on buying a single house. So
Yeah.
I think it takes kind of that yin and yang to be able to pull the trigger. And this is an emotional business. There's lots of ups and downs, and to have somebody there to kind of ride that roller coaster with you, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What would you say, in your experience, are the added pressures that you have of being spouses versus just friends that are partners? We won't get too personal here, but
there's pros and cons, is what I would say. The pros of working with your spouse is obviously there's an element of trust that you share, and that is already established. Whereas if you were to find someone new as a business partner, lots of times you have to have agreements in place and documentation and what happens if you guys split up. Now, if you guys break up, that's going to be an issue. But generally speaking, if you are working with your spouse, you can kind of avoid all that. And there's an element of trust that's already established. Plus, you kind of know the person intimately. You know generally what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and you should have a good idea of what you're getting into. Obviously, the cons...
Did you know what you were getting into when we started the business together?
I did. Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay.
So the cons is just the added pressure of the business on top of your family life and your other household obligations. So it takes a little bit of a juggling act. And I guess what we have done is to really establish boundaries in terms of what roles and responsibilities each of us have. And so we both kind of know what our strengths are, and we kind of stick to our strengths. But the other thing is that what I found is that when we put both of our minds together, we generally make better decisions because you have a more encompassing point of view when you make those decisions. Yeah. And I'd say, the biggest con would be just the added pressure of dealing with everything else in your life that's going on.
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest challenge is, like Lindsay mentioned, we both came from the corporate world. So whenever we came home from work, if I had a bad day or I had something happened at work, I usually didn't dump it on her. It wasn't like, hey, we probably are both laying in bed thinking about challenges or something that happened to work, but we didn't infect each other with it as much as we do when we're both in the business. And so it's kind of hard to ever get away from the, you know, we definitely take our work home with us. There's no doubt about it. And we, you know, Lindsay and I, because we have multiple businesses and because we're gluttons for punishment and we do a lot of things that we don't really need to do anymore, but we just keep
doing it,
trying new things and doing new things. It's hard to kind of ever stop working, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why, I mean, even we are guilty of staying up until midnight and being in bed and saying, "Did you remember to do that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So
taking a shower in the morning, you're shampooing your hair. Hey, did you forget to do this? Like, oh, I just need to wash my hair. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that definitely happens.
Yeah. I would say you've seen some partnerships, not marriages, but partnerships in this business. We know several people that were partners and they broke up, or they broke apart. You know, it didn't work out. What can you share with people that is like some of the bigger challenges you've seen that cause those failures?
Well, there's lots of things. I mean, you know, some of the situations that I found, at least I can think of off the top of my head, are sometimes one person wants to do something different. It doesn't want to continue to do what they're doing. So that's obviously a challenge that you need to work through. Other issues are maybe there's a disagreement about the future of where the ongoing strategy for the business.
Yeah.
So those can easily arise, and that's why it's almost always important to get that information to get your process for if you do break up, kind of almost like a prenup, but in place. If you are working with someone, not your spouse, but someone outside, I would definitely recommend just having some sort of agreement, like what happens if this does happen. So then there's not a lot of fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I'll add are like I've seen where I think whenever somebody, I think that's why it's important to try to define your roles as well as possible, because when somebody starts to feel like I'm doing more work, I'm doing 60% of the work and I'm only getting 50% of the profit or something like that, then it starts to cause friction. And I think probably real estate has this unique challenge that is added to partnerships where even though we borrow money from lenders and things like that to buy real estate, we're almost always personally guaranteeing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if somebody starts to feel like, well, my partner doesn't have good credit, so I'm personally guaranteeing everything, and then you start to think, maybe I'm working harder than them. It's like, wait a minute, I'm working harder and I'm taking all the risk. Why am I only getting this share of the profit? And I think same thing with rental properties. It's like if you say, well, you keep every other one and I'll keep every other one, or we'll put them in a partnership together. All of a sudden, then somebody got the crappy one that the other person didn't want. And there's just things that can cause friction.
Yeah,
like
I mean, basically in those types of situations, you want to balance like the decision-making ability with the risk, because if someone is taking on more of the risk, they need to have more of the control of the decision-making, because it should be balanced.
Yeah.
You get into a lot of problems when someone is in control and making riskier decisions than what the person that's actually on the hook for. So
Yeah, and I think kind of inherent in what we said, one other thing that I've seen is that people get in business with their friends, or it's probably people that are like them and they have the same skill set or very similar.
Right.
And so therefore you both suck at bookkeeping and cash management, and it just kind of brings you down. Yeah,
it can. But yeah, I mean, that's why it's good to have a variety of people on your team that can fill in those roles. And but like I said, I think there needs to be a detail organized person, and there needs to be someone that is very outgoing, salesy. And when you have that combination, then I think you're unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting. Sometimes you give advice, you're like, "Oh, this would be great." Like, well, we've never done that. It was a good idea. We should have done that. I don't think it's a bad idea to have a quarterly meeting or whatever it is. It's like the airing of grievances, like George Costanza's father, right? It's not Festivus, but it's some meeting that you have quarterly that is like, let's get together and let's just lay it on the table and say, this is where I think things are out of whack, or here's where I need help, or here's where things aren't fair. And just kind of, I mean, you get oil changes on your car and maintenance on your car. Why not have some mechanism in place to do that in your business as well? Because your business is probably much more important than your car or a lot of things that you have serviced.
But I think that needs to be, it needs to be kind of incorporated with the goal planning. So every business needs to be focused on setting goals, even as a husband and wife. And the goal should be not just your business, especially when you're a husband and wife. It should also be life. Where do you want to go as a family, as a couple? Like your goal should be just life and business. It should be all intertwined.
Yeah. Well, we're going to jump into talking a little bit about FlipNerd and what we're doing there, what we've been doing, and any kind of final thoughts, Lindsay, you want to share on advice on partnerships or anything else? We've shared a lot here, but anything you want to add?
No, but I would recommend
if you guys haven't noticed, my wife is the introverted side, she's very succinct. She wanted to know what the agenda was for this show. I said, I never had an agenda. We just talk about what we talk about. So what's this? Some people might say, hey, you guys apparently had a successful real estate investing business. Why did you stop doing that? We didn't stop doing it, but why do you add things to the plate? Why did we kind of move on to, and again, we're still buying and selling houses, but why did we kind of shift some of our focus into building FlipNerd? What's that all about?
Well, it's kind of a pet project, I would say, at least for me. I think we came up with the idea because when we were buying more heavily a few years ago, we would always run into the problem of finding good vendors and like having a good site to list our assignment deals or wholesale deals to other investors. And so we just saw that we were creating a buyer's list and other investors that we knew were creating their own buyer's list. And I just thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we had one place that you could just post your property and there's a culmination of all investors. And it's kind of shocking to realize how large the market of real estate investors are. And some people are real estate investors and they don't even really know it or think of themselves as real estate investors because they own multiple rental properties and they may be looking for other rental properties. But there is, it's just kind of something that it's kind of your and my give to the world. We just thought that this is something that we could offer and for new investors, and it's just something coming from our hearts.
Yeah, I think there was a combination of those things that you mentioned. Like, hey, at the time, I would say that there's been a couple of leaps forward in the past few years with kind of technology. But I came out of my most recent job, which was hard to believe it was 8 years ago now that, or more than 8 years ago that I left there, was a technology company, a startup, and everything was very technology focused. It was a e-commerce company, and it was just getting into real estate and realizing that the kind of real estate investor world and the technology world had not yet collided in any way. I mean, the best that anybody had was maybe an early on meetup group or some 1980s website that was just kind of junky. But I think it was a combination of saying, hey, there's a better way to do a lot of this stuff. Let's create that. And then for me, the social side of this relationship, I've always had this itch to network and build relationships and things like that. And we did a lot of that in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then at some point, it just kind of expanded from there. And I actually didn't realize what would happen when I started the podcast, which was episode 300 now. And we started it at the beginning. So this is like a little over 2 years ago, right? The beginning of 2014. And so what was amazing to me that I didn't really expect, I mean, I guess I knew some of it was socializing, but it's just the kind of doors and the opportunities that would open from building new relationships.
Sure.
And then I think from there, we've kind of built upon that. Hey, this could be a platform for people to meet each other and share their stories. We have in FlipNerd, we have the journals section that we've just recently launched where people can actually share their story, write about a rehab project or share their knowledge or whatever. And I mean, I guess it
It's
continues to
fun.
evolve.
Yeah, we're still suckers for the, flip this house shows because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the transformation.
Yeah.
And also it's fun to watch how communities are improved. And so that's it's fun.
Yeah. Did you know when we started a website that it would be as much maintenance and ongoing work as,
Yeah.
yeah. I had no idea. I thought you just built it and
No.
it's there, but that's not it at all.
No, that's not. It's not actually. It turned out to be true.
Yeah. Well, in fact, for those of you that listen, we just relaunched the new FlipNerd site, 100% built from scratch, rebuilt, and launched with about 50,000 subscribers on our mailing list. And we have around 22,000 members, but I think we're planning to grow that dramatically certainly over even the balance of this year and the years to come. Do you want to share a little bit about some of the things that we have on FlipNerd? I mean, on this show, it's all about the show. I don't really talk about the website at all. We have some ads and stuff like, hey, go find a property, go list a property, but it's so much more than that. Do you want to share maybe some of what the site's all about? Other things you can do on there?
So just like what we've had before, people can still list their properties for free. And once you publish your property, that will go out, that an email will be sent and a text or a text message will be sent to investors, paid investors that are looking for properties in the same market as your published property. Yeah. So it kind of is a marketing arm for you if you're a seller of a property. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for properties, it's great because you can get notified instantly, either by email or by text, if there's new properties that are published. And a lot of times these are off-market deals, so they're not necessarily on the MLS or Realtor.com, and they're being sold through either someone that has it under contract,
right? And
you can purchase the right to buy the right to purchase that property yourself. Yep. So the other things that we have on the site is we have a active vendor listing. So vendors can advertise their services in your market, so you can search for vendors. So this is really helpful, especially if you rehab properties. It's really helpful to know and have a network of people that's kind of you can tap into. We were always kind of relying on Craigslist, which we've got a few horror stories from that. Yeah. But you can also rate and review. If you see a vendor that you've actually used, you can rate them. And we also have a section for real estate investment clubs. So we strongly encourage everyone to get involved in a local REI club because it just, by networking with other investors, it just brings a whole new element and opens up a lot more doors for you in terms of buying deals or getting access, knowing about other vendors that can help you with your business. And then, Mike, you also mentioned the member journal. So you can, it's kind of your megaphone where you can kind of talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can provide before and after pictures. So it's kind of fun to, if you worked on a deal or just want to brag about it, that's the place to do it in the member journals. And let's see, we also have, with this new iteration, we now have a member directory. So if you are a paid member, you can now search for other members in your area and try to connect with them. So that's great.
Yeah, there's a way to connect a lot. It's modeled a lot like LinkedIn, right? Like you can find other investors in your area or based on, other types of things, and you can connect to them and direct message them and things like that through the site, directly through FlipNerd.
Right.
Yep.
And so we also have a lab area. So Mike, why don't you tell them about the lab area?
Well, the FlipNerd lab is it's a premium area. So we have three different levels of membership. We have what we call the basic, which is a free membership. We have the pro level, where you get access to listing notifications. And then we have the elite level, which you get access to notifications in more counties. But you also get access to the lab, which includes a number of things. It includes what we call master classes. So some of those are fairly detailed training programs in kind of taking a deep dive in one specific area. Could be multifamily investing, could be investing in non-performing notes, other things like that are I think one of the things that people like most about what we have at FlipNerd. And what I enjoy the most is I now call friends many of the top people in the country that are experts in given areas. And so when we have somebody that's contributing in the lab, we have these master classes that I mentioned, and we also have office hours, which are live webinars twice a month with an expert. I'm usually tapping on the shoulder of the person that's at the top of their game. It's one of the top people in that specific space that are going to come and share their knowledge that for a lot of folks is just invaluable. If you need to know about that, this is the person you need to learn from. And we have a kind of a mastermind group, a private Facebook group that's only for our elite members, and some other things as well. But it's just a premium area with content that we think is the highest quality content that we have to kind of provide a not custom, but just a higher quality experience, I guess, for those members that choose to be an elite member.
Yep.
Yeah.
And deals and stuff like that. So
sorry?
Deals.
Yeah, we have some access to preferred vendors and special offers and stuff like that as well. So you see, guys, she's the thorough side. Just don't let me forget anything. Don't forget about the deal section. So how do you think people can benefit? I talk about RIA clubs. As you know, we were a sponsor at one of the large RIA clubs here for about 5 years. We're actually about to become a sponsor of a new RIA club here. And so I think RIA clubs have always played an important role in the real estate investor community. And we do, we're not trying to take away from RIA clubs at all. In fact, if you listen to my show, I talk about it all the time. We wouldn't have spent as much effort trying to create a place for RIA clubs to share profile pages and all. In fact, it's free for RIA clubs to have a profile on our site and learn how to sign up for their club and all like that. The directory is free. But one of the things where I think RIA clubs can't match is the convenience of online, and therefore, what the information that we offer, that we have available, is available 24/7, 365 days a year. And I think that's hopefully we can essentially partner with RIA clubs in a lot of ways to provide content to people while outside of their general meetings. Does that sound right, Lindsay?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So who do you think, as there's a lot of investors, there's a lot of people that are what we'll call newbies. They haven't really started, or they've done one deal, or they want to do this. And then because of this show, and because of some of the relationships we have the top experts in the country. So maybe you could share your thoughts on what we offer to newbies and as well as experts.
Yeah. You mean with the elite membership?
Well, just anything that we have on FlipNerd. How can FlipNerd benefit a new person, and how can FlipNerd benefit an elite person, somebody that is an expert?
Experienced person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're just getting started, I think just watching the expert interviews will provide a wealth of knowledge. Watching the master classes, getting involved with the office hours will provide a wealth of knowledge for you. And it's not that much money. I mean, I've heard people spending a tremendous amount of money with a lot of gurus.
Tens of thousands of dollars,
have yet to purchase a house. And so half of the battle is getting confidence, and you get your confidence by learning and kind of divulging yourself into learning about what it is and how real estate investing works, and surrounding yourself with the experts that are actually doing it. Yeah. And then the other half of the battle is actually taking the action piece of it. So nothing will ever move forward unless you actually take action. And so that's the other side of the spectrum. So what FlipNerd provides is we'll provide actual deals for you so that you can actually go out, check out, do your research, and jump in. So that's the hope. And if you're an experienced person, you can, even though we have been doing this for 8 years, we will still be continually investing in ourselves and always trying to find out, well, what are people doing now? Are there different things that people do? Is there an easier way to do something? Right. So just continuing education is never a bad thing.
Yeah, you're never. I think as you know, we've talked about this before on the show. I'm in a high-end mastermind that quite frankly, is $20,000 a year. And, a lot of people enter this and they think I'm at the top of my game. And then you get in a room full of the people that are in this group, for example, and you realize that you're not humble. As big as you thought you were, and you're not as good as you thought you were.
Right.
And I think it's important to always surround yourself with people. I think that real estate investing is kind of a lonely business if you let it be. And if you don't ever reach out to try to find people that, you can build this relationship where you help and you add value, and in return you're helped, then I don't think you can ever be at the top of your game. I think you've got to continue to learn forever in this industry. And truthfully, even though we've bought hundreds of houses, we know nothing about notes. We know nothing other than kind of an academic view of multifamily, mobile home investing in land. There's so many ways to make money in real estate that there is no one expert. There is no, one person that can teach you all those things. And I think that that's one of the things that we offer is we bring the top knowledge together to share that with people. And even if you're an expert, I know plenty of people that are experts at the top of their game, and then they hear, wow, this stuff about notes is really interesting. Where do I go to learn it? You just go right to the top. You want to learn from the top person instead of necessarily buying books and being self-taught, because your time is money and you value going right to the best source for that.
Right. And also, just to finish that thought, if you're an experienced person, FlipNerd, you can obviously list your deals for free, and have them marketed to investors in your area. And lastly, just the deals section, finding vendors and accessing the deals section will help you hopefully turn those flips around quicker or hopefully on time or under budget.
Awesome. Well, we'll kind of wind this down because I think we've shared our story with you guys a little bit. I appreciate you joining us. Lindsay, thanks for joining me.
Sure.
For those of you that are listening, I tried to get Lindsay to come on show 200 and that fell through for one reason or another. In fact, I think around that time you watched your first show. Like you're going to admit to the world right now you have not watched all 300?
No, I've not watched all 300.
In fact, when you watched one and I said, what did you think? You said, it was all right.
It was good.
Huh?
I thought it was good.
Oh, now you say it was good. I think you said, it was okay. Well, I guess we'll kind of give some final notes here. If you're new to real estate investing, if you're a veteran, you probably have some experience or you've seen some other partnerships. If you're newer, I think the important thing, just to kind of come full circle here on partnerships, and whether it's with your spouse or somebody else, is to just clearly define what it is you're going to do versus what they're going to do. And if it is your spouse, then you have to kind of balance in your home life as well, right? If you have children, it's like, Lindsay says it all the time. She leaves at 3:00 to go pick our son up, and she's like, I'm going to my second job. And that's just the reality of the world that you're in if you're in this business with your spouse. But I think the important thing to try to keep your sanity, whether it's your spouse or another partner, is to just have clearly defined goals and expectations of what each person needs to do, and to not be afraid to talk about it, because if you let things fester, they just build up and you can start to lose some of that trust and some of those things that are a huge asset if you don't destroy them. So.
Great.
Lindsay, thanks for joining me. I'm going to see you here in just a minute again. But everybody, thanks for allowing me to share my wife with you today. And appreciate you. We'll see you on one more plug, I guess. We've just relaunched the FlipNerd.com website. So go check it out. Go on over to FlipNerd.com. And if you're somehow not a member yet, it takes about a member to sign up for a free account. It takes about a minute to sign up for a free account. And you can check out all of the great stuff we have to offer for premium people at FlipNerd.com/lab. It'll tell you more about all of the premium content we have. So everyone, we'll see you on the next show. And thanks for joining us today. PassiveRental.com is your source for turnkey, done-for-you rental properties. If you'd like to be an investor and not a landlord, please visit PassiveRental.com to learn how to purchase cash-flowing, professionally managed rental properties in the hottest rental markets across the country. We can also help connect you with financing for your next property. Invest the easy way today and get started by visiting PassiveRental.com. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.